You're listening to the Oddities
People
podcast.
can be like really stiff. I'm like, you can be chill. Like you can
No,
shift
I'm
and
very
move.
comfortable.
Okay, I'm a very shifty person.
I was in theater and I did music and I
Oh.
sang a lot when I was younger.
Did
so,
you really?
Yeah.
I don't know any of this shit about you.
Yes.
I feel like I don't know anything about you all of a sudden.
Yes.
Which I really don't.
I just keep I just keep like my like photography stuff on my photography page and like that's like.
Do you have a separate IG for your personal one?
Yeah.
Do I follow you on there or not?
Probably not.
I
That
don't
one's
even
like
know.
I'm kind of like an enigma on that one because I don't really post that much and like when I do it's really stupid stuff.
Your posts on because I obviously I follow you on your photography one. I don't know if I follow you on your personal one or not.
Yeah.
But you do really good story work. You put a lot of time
Thanks.
in that, huh?
I do think about it a lot just because I know that stories are a way for someone to get a feel for the product and the experience that they're either investing into, whether it just be like that interface with social media or like if they're going to invest their time in putting money into the product that I'm bringing. So then I feel I'm just like, that's what I want them to
it's
see.
like a conscious effort when you do.
Yeah.
Because you do good, man. Like
Thanks.
it's fun to see different stuff posted on IG because most of it just kind of gets lost in the noise. And I don't know, it's hard to be creative and out of the box with your stuff, you know.
There's a lot. Yeah.
But your stuff is really good.
Thanks.
What kind of landscaping have you been doing?
So it's for my friend she's the office manager for a roofing company in Ferndale. So initially after I stopped working for Woods, then like not even a day went by and then she was like, "Hey, do you want to work at this roofing company?" And then I was like,
Doing what, roofing?
Yeah.
Like I don't.
Well, because he was joking. Like the owner, he was just like, "Oh, if she wants to like go pick up trash with the guys, like I'll hire her to do that." And I'm like, "I will do it. I'm tough. I'm not like this pretty looking.
Not afraid to
like,
get your hands dirty.
Yeah, like I'll
with
do
the boys.
that." And I was the first woman that he ever hired to do that. So I did that for 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then like actual roofing, like nailing stuff.
You're on
in.
the roof?
Oh yeah.
See, I'm afraid of heights.
Yeah.
I don't. It's weird because when I was a kid, I would climb on the roof of my parents' house because it was fun to be up. But as I've gotten older, I get sketched all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I don't know like what's happened, but like I have a hard time being up on balconies or any type high. Like just getting close, I'm just like my brain.
That's your sensibility
my
coming
like
in.
primal lizard brain's like fuck. Get back. Hold on.
It's like no.
Here's Danielle real quick here. So she's gonna shoot some story vids while we're doing this.
I remember when Instagram first got stories, I was so against using them because I was so into Snapchat. And I was just like, I will never use the Instagram story. Snapchat is the only thing.
Yeah.
And a year later, I'm like, oh, no. I need this for my marketing.
I used Snapchat for the longest time. I started to hate that fucking app because it would glitch so much. Like it would have so many problems where it wouldn't upload or it'd upload out of order.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times it'd be playing and like something would happen where I'd get a text or a call in the middle of watching it. And then I'd throw it off, and then I'd have to come back to the app to try to get, and it was gone. I couldn't replay it.
It had a lot of bugs.
Then I have to message my friend. I'm like, I don't know, you sent me something. I don't know what you tried to say. And it was all these problems. And then Marco Polo, that app, I use that one now. It's my Snapchat replacement.
I don't think
it's basically Snapchat, except the videos are always saved. You can rewatch them a million times. You can put longer ones out there as long as you want. Yeah, it's the one.
I haven't heard that one.
I know.
That's cool. I like your shoes.
Thank you.
Oh, they're snazzy.
These are Roberto Cavalli.
They're snazzy. I just like, I love little detail. Like I always like seeing the differences in men's fashion because it's just, there's usually just like, or men think that there's like not that much that you can do with fashion. Sometimes that's like the mentality, but I'm like, no, there's so much little detail that you can get.
Yeah. Are you a shoe girl? Do you have a lot of shoes?
No. I actually don't like shoe shopping. I don't really like shopping in general. Like I just like, it pains me. Like if someone's like, let's go shopping, I'm like, I don't want to. Like if I see something that I like these pants, like it's something that's unique, it grabs my eye, and I'm just like, I will wear that.
Yeah.
I do have a lot of very statement, colorful pieces, but I don't enjoy going out shopping for the sake of.
Do you like the colorful, floral, patterny type stuff?
Yes.
Are you an extroverted personality type? I would say yes for sure.
Yeah, for the
because
most part.
When I saw you with Sammy, first of all, I had met you once before that because you came by the store, I think, right?
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
But you're so emotive and good with her. Like you two together are so good. I wish I would have had you on with her.
Yeah.
Then eventually we'll get you both on together. But you're so encouraging. And like you really just make her feel comfortable, and I imagine you probably like that with everybody. But you're so good at like encouraging the model. Like, was that a natural thing that came to you when you first started like doing photo shoots with models, or is that something you consciously made an effort to do, or what?
a
Or were you
little
seeing
bit of
like you
both.
weren't getting what you wanted and you're like, come on, like,
I think I would say a little bit of both
uh-huh.
because like the first couple of people that I started shooting with like years ago was my cousin and then my college best friend,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like we were just messing around and just taking pictures, and so I'd just do my best to make them laugh,
Mm-hmm.
and then that would usually just like elicit different
Uh-huh.
responses, and then I kind of started thinking about it more, and I'm like, if I'm the person getting my picture taken and I don't know what to do with my body,
Mm-hmm.
I'm always looking for like what does the photographer want? Like
Mm-hmm.
you like two people are always trying to read each other and
Yeah.
always trying to look for those cues. And so as a photographer, I try to do different things to elicit those emotions from my whatever subject I have.
Uh-huh. Have you had some really difficult shoots? Yeah.
Like yeah, it depends on the experience that the person has in cameras. Like I'd say probably 70% of people I shoot with are like, I don't look good in front of cameras. I don't know how to do
Uh-huh.
this. I don't know. I'm
Uh-huh.
not good. And so I'm just like, no, don't worry about it. Pretend I'm not here and I'll
Yeah.
prompt you.
Well, knowing how to pose and maneuver your body, like my first time ever doing a photo shoot where I was there with like a model
Mm.
and actual photographer was with you and Sammy. I'd never like witnessed
Oh,
anything like that
yeah.
before because where in the real world would I have ever,
Hmm.
it's only because like I have a
Yeah.
business and we're doing like stuff, promos and whatnot. It was really cool. And Sammy's like so emotive and
She's
like
natural for
really
sure.
good at it.
That helps. I
Yeah.
think our dynamic is a lot of her knowing what
Hmm.
looks good and what's expected because she has history doing that. And then our personalities are work well together. Like
Yeah.
we met each other through Instagram. I didn't know who she was. I just saw her from other people's posts around town
That's how I
and
met her.
yeah. Yeah, I'm just like she looks
uh-huh.
really cool and
Uh-huh.
then we kind of started messaging and we're like we should meet up because we have a lot of people in common. That's how I've met a lot of people in Bellingham. We have a lot
Hmm.
of people in common. We should probably be
Yeah.
friends.
Well, it's weird when you look at someone's profile and you're like followed by, and it's like all your friends. I'm
Yeah,
like, oh
I'm
shit, how do
like
you
how do I
guys?
not know you?
Yeah, right.
That's definitely
Uh
happened
huh.
like probably about 5 or 6 people in Bellingham. And then there was an art walk that was coming up, like the art walk downtown.
Yeah, I've been on a few times.
There was one that was coming up and I was like, "Hey, you like art? I like art. Let's make a date and go out
Yeah.
and meet each
Oh,
other."
cool.
So we
Uh
met
huh.
at Bayou, like right in front of Bayou,
Uh
and
huh.
just like kind of like looking for each other. And she's like, "I'm the girl that's all tatted up," and like,
Uh huh.
I'm like, "Okay, I'll
Uh,
I'll definitely see you." And it was great. Like
yeah.
from the get go, we hit it
I feel
off
like you
super
two would be
well.
fun to hang out with together.
We're fun. I
Yeah.
think so. We've only hung out maybe a handful of times,
Mm-hmm.
but we it's that kind of understanding with some people. They're just like, yeah, this person's here. They're not hiding anything. They're just here to be present and enjoy company.
Yeah, it's nice when you can feel like I don't know what that is, where you just feel comfortable with someone, or like,
There has to
oh,
be a
like the
word for
energies
it.
just kind of sync. I guess it's just chemistry,
Hmm.
But
I find that fascinating.
it is really weird, right? Because I often think a lot about free will. I'm of the belief that I'm not sure if it exists because I think about so many things in life that we don't choose.
Mm.
Like, you don't choose to be extroverted or introverted. You didn't make a conscious decision. You just like to be around a lot of people and you like that social interaction of parties and groups, or you're more introverted, you like to be home. But that's something that you didn't really consciously choose at any point in your life. It just, you either feel drained or, you know what I mean?
Do you feel like it could change over time?
I feel like I've become more extroverted as I've gotten older.
Mm.
I'm still a homebody at heart, though. Like,
Hmm.
home is my place. You're never gonna see me like in a club or Coachella or like
Yeah.
large. I'm not gonna be out in the desert with 10,000, thousands of people. But I think also like just in terms of think of like music. Like, you don't know if you like food, like pizza or sushi or anything, until you put it in your mouth and you chew it, and your taste buds interact with your brain and signal,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that tastes good. I like it. It's not like you make a conscious decision. The same thing with music. You listen to it and you like the beat or the vocals, but it's like how it's hitting your brain, right?
Yeah.
And it's like you can't fake love. You can't fake falling in love. Like, if there's a human being and you can't be forced to love them.
Hmm.
You either feel that chemistry and that attraction and you fall in love, or you just don't. Like, you can't force it.
Hmm.
And it's the same thing with so many things. So then I think, well, how much do we actually choose? Because if you don't choose the food you like, the music you like, you don't choose your extroverted, introverted personality, and you don't choose the partner or who you're attracted to, how much are we actually choosing?
Hmm.
Like, how much is, that goes into the whole nature nurture thing. So I get tying it back to what we were talking about with chemistry. It's like, yeah, you just meet someone, and for whatever reason, there's something in your brain. Maybe it was imprinting at a young age that
Hmm.
signals to you, oh, this type of person. Maybe you had some positive interaction at some point in your life you don't even remember with someone of that particular energy or type, and you just feel like, yeah, this is
Yeah.
it, right? But that's weird, huh?
No,
How it
I do
happens.
like that kind of or just like looking at things in that kind of a perspective and you can see or like I'm kind of the belief that like you can't some people can be a product of the what's around them.
Mm-hmm.
And just like as you grow and experience different things, you can kind of like shift, only because like that's how I've felt, like I kind of like shift on a spectrum of being more extroverted and introverted.
Okay.
And it just like throughout my life, that's kind of been
Do you,
how I
do you
function.
feel like you're fluctuating more introvert or more extrovert? Like, where do you feel?
When I was really, really young, like my natural, like baby, like we're talking toddler,
Uh-huh.
like before I entered elementary school, very extroverted. Like I wanted to be the center of attention and like
Mm-hmm.
everyone look at me. I want to make you laugh. I want to make you smile, and I want to have everyone's attention. But then elementary school, I got really shy, and like I was that extroverted person for a while, but then it wasn't received well.
Mm-hmm.
And then like
Uh-huh.
people were like,
They
"Oh,
were,
she's weird. We don't want to
uh-huh.
be around
Were
her."
you like super extroverted, bouncing off the walls, like super energy, super
No,
high
I
energy?
just very imaginative,
Uh-huh.
like very creative. Like imagination and reality would sometimes like blend together. And so it was that kind of like, what, she really like sees something over there on just like imaginary friends or
Mm-hmm.
like characters that like these narratives that a little kid would make up in their head.
Yeah.
Like that was kind of a reality at times. And then so like then I became more introverted because it's like, oh, like it's not being received well.
You became like self-conscious
Yeah, then more
and
self-conscious. I'm
withdrew a
like,
little
oh
bit.
no, okay.
Uh-huh.
And then like older high school, then it's like people are admired for being more outgoing. So then I'm like, oh, so this is okay now. So then
Yeah.
like I start being like more my outgoing self, and then that just kind of started to grow more into
Uh-huh.
college and then beyond.
Because that's where that dynamic, those social dynamics in high school is where they really come out into play.
Brutal.
Where
Middle
school,
school is awful.
yeah, where like once people start to get to that age where in like all of a sudden social relationships become are like the primary focus of it, and like that whole
Hmm.
social dynamic. And yeah, the people who are more extroverted and colorful and loud and whatever are the ones that are usually the most popular. It
Hmm.
gets reinforced. is,
Yeah.
is that when you started to get into, you said you did drama and singing, or
Yeah.
uh-huh.
Because I remember I was so afraid of then being in front of people. Like I wanted to be, but then it was kind of that scared of like, how's everyone going to react?
Hmm.
Because they didn't react well when I was younger. And I remember I went to audition for a show. I was probably like eighth grade,
Hmm.
and my mother took me. And then we drove up to the school, and I started, and like I walked in, and I remember seeing a bunch of like kids getting ready to like do their parts for an audition.
Hmm.
And then I was like, no, I no, like I see
Uh-huh.
my classmates there. I'm Mom, we're leaving. Go.
Uh-huh.
We're getting
Uh-huh.
out of here. And she's like, no, just go, just try. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
no,
Uh-huh.
my friend, no.
Uh-huh.
And then left. So that was a
Was
bust.
this in Bellingham, or where were you living?
Oh, Eastern Washington in
Okay.
Yakima. I
Okay.
grew up in Yakima. I was born in Hawaii, and then we eventually moved to Eastern Washington.
You even say it the right way, Hawaii.
Hawaii.
I had a
Hawaii.
professor at Western that would say that way, Hawaii, and I would always say Hawaii because
Yeah.
that's how like people who don't know say it.
No.
And she got Hawaii, and it's like, oh, there's like a different thing going on.
Yeah. Even the W, it's supposed to be a slight V sound.
Uh-huh.
So it's more
Hawaii V,
no
Hawaii,
Hawaii.
Hawaii. Uh-huh.
Have like replace the W
Uh-huh.
with a V, Hawaii,
Hmm.
but it's like really slight. My father lived there for 18 years, so that's why I was
Oh
there
wow.
and lived there for a while. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, so Yakima was or that high school, it was just like very
So that's where you went. So you didn't audition. Your mom's like, all right, and you guys got out of there.
yeah, we left. And I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. And then
Uh-huh.
the next year, I finally had the gust. I'm like, okay, I can do this. And then I auditioned
Uh-huh.
again, and it was The Sound of Music. And
Oh
then
damn.
I got the part of one of the Von Trapp kids.
Uh-huh.
So then that was when I was like, okay,
Hmm.
people react well to this. And then I just continued on with it till
Oh,
graduate.
cool.
And then actually my senior year of graduation, I sang with my best friend at like for graduation.
Oh damn. Is there a video of that on YouTube anywhere?
There is actually.
Really?
Yeah.
What do I type in? Paloma? Or what?
I think it's Paloma and Kayla singing at graduation.
Oh, dope.
So
Okay.
you can go and
I gotta
find
check
that.
that out.
Yeah,
Was it?
17-year-old Paloma singing in front of a couple
Yeah.
thousand people.
What was that like? Was that terrifying?
No, the thing was put together so quickly. Like, honestly, I didn't want to audition by myself,
Hmm.
and then my friend didn't want to either. And both of our mothers independently were like, "You should audition." And we're like, "No, we're not going to." And then we were talking about our mother said we should audition.
Uh-huh.
And then we're like, "Oh, but what if we did a duet together?"
Uh-huh.
And so then we did, and we performed this really lovely song. I think Mariah Carey, no, Kelly Clarkson. That was a not good mix up.
Uh-huh.
Why? But yeah, Kelly Clarkson sang this song, and it was and then we auditioned, and we didn't think that we were gonna get
Uh-huh.
it because there were a lot of talented people in our graduating class,
Mhm.
and we got it. And
Damn.
so we were just
Who did you
so
audition in
floored.
front of? Like,
Our or no, it was like the ASB like class president. It was like the class president
Mhm.
ASB top people
Okay.
that were the ones who were choosing who was
Wow.
getting it done.
That's
But
exciting.
it was, yeah, and there were a lot of really talented groups that were performing, so we were
Mhm.
shocked that we even
Did you
like
do any more
registered.
acting or performing in college at all?
I auditioned for a couple of things, but
Mhm.
it wasn't something that like I had a lot of other things that were taking up my time.
Uh-huh.
Just like even the college experience was just like being in school and like having to learn all these different like where
Mhm.
to go and trying to get used to a new town. So it wasn't something that I felt I could divide my time
Mhm.
equally with.
And how did you get into photography? Like when did you start shooting and when did you make the jump? You're like, I wonder if I could do this for like money and start shooting
People will
models and
pay me to do
like I
this.
can get paid. How did that all
Wow,
come
and
about?
like a lot. This is cool. I just do it for fun. I got my first camera when I was 14,
Mhm.
maybe. It was like waterproof, indestructible point and shoot,
Uh-huh.
and I took pictures. Like I documented everything. So like my mid-teens are very well documented, and I just like took
Uh-huh.
pictures and videos of
Uh-huh.
everything. And then I started editing stuff on really simple Google apps, just like it was Picasa at that time. I don't
Uh-huh.
think it's in existence anymore. And then after that, I was like probably 18 or 19. Then I got a more advanced point and shoot camera
Mhm.
and started just messing around more with that. And then,
And like were you watching like videos on like YouTube and like shutter speed and like how to do all these different things and
yeah,
uh-huh.
kind of like because I'm not professionally taught at all. Like I'm all self-taught when it comes
Mhm.
to photography, and so I mostly was just kind of like try this and then if it doesn't work and just kind of
Yeah.
trial and error. But I did watch several YouTube videos and then just look up little
Uh-huh.
diagrams to get the hang of it. And then I would just like take my friends and be like, hey,
Mhm.
let's like slap some
Uh,
outfit on you and then go
uh-huh.
outside and shoot. And then
Uh-huh.
they'd be like, okay, cool. And I give them the
Uh-huh.
pictures and just like messing around for free.
That's one of those things like people really love good photos of themselves. Like that's
Yeah.
one of those things you don't have to sell people on. Like if you get someone who knows what they're doing, like they want to take your picture, I'm like, fuck, let's do it. Like, cause I could post it on
Yeah.
Instagram on my dating profiles and like,
Yeah,
like,
because then like and then they'll be
yeah,
like, who took that picture of you? And you'll
uh
be like, my friend. And then it's
huh,
very easy to say that.
yeah. And people like repost and tag you, and it's just like easy free advertising. Cause no one's gonna say
Yeah.
no to like that, right?
Yeah,
Uh huh.
unless you got like people who are really, really shy.
Uh
But for
huh.
the most part, people are always really gung ho about that.
Uh huh.
I think my first paid like wedding shoot was just someone like a friend of a friend who was like, "Oh, will you do this?" And
Hmm.
I think they maybe paid me $25 and gave me a meal. It was just because like I
Damn.
was so new at
Uh
photography
huh.
and like I didn't know what photographers were paid. And I was just like, I'm just messing around.
And photography, I mean, for a wedding though, that's like a thing where I would be stressed. I would feel like, 'cause I'm like, fuck, this is like an important thing,
Yeah.
and you have to take all these fucking pictures and then
Oh
go
yeah.
edit them. You're like, Jesus Christ, and like, what
Oh
if they
now yeah.
suck or they hate them? And like, Jesus, for $25, like I don't know anything about editing photography. It's not
Hmm.
my thing, but I have edited a lot of video, and especially this podcast. And fuck, it's so time consuming.
Oh yeah.
It's like,
And
good
you
God,
like
dude.
you always like obsessing over it too. You're like, wait, does this sound good? Does this sound good? Or like for me, like, does
Uh
this
huh.
look good? And then you have to look away and then you go back.
Yeah. I always hate the sound of my own voice when I hear it, but it's like you have to add like noise compression and you have to add all these different things to the voice, and I always soften them up. And then I have to like watch the whole thing and then cut up clips for the YouTube channel and then clips for the Instagram. And so
Yeah.
like I literally watch every episode. And then when all that's done and it's on YouTube, then I watch the full thing on YouTube. And then I was like I literally hear every podcast like 6 or 7 times all the way through, and I'm so fucking sick of it. I'm just like, God, like I can't even stand
My yeah.
but it's like when you have to hear yourself or see yourself constantly, you're like, ugh. Like it just gets one of
I
those
wonder
things.
why that is.
I don't
Like
know.
that's like another one of those human things. So many people have that
Uh-huh.
reaction.
It's like when you hear your voice on like a voicemail, like, oh,
Like,
it's like, is that what I
ugh.
sound
Yeah.
like? It's so monotone and like just graining on my voice, in
Yeah.
my head. It's just like, oh. But I don't know. Yeah, I think it's just a human thing. I don't know what that is either.
Do you ever
It is a
feel
weird thing.
conscious of your own voice? Like you
Yes,
intentionally
I intentionally make
manipulate
sure
it?
I'm not monotone. I try to
Mm-hmm.
fluctuate the tonality of my voice a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I work on that, going
That's
up
good.
and down and low and high, and also because I was a psychology major, so I've listened
I
to
was
a lot
curious
of
about
stuff.
what you studied. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I talk really fast naturally. I've had to consciously sometimes because people can you can if I slow down a little bit
The
and
energy in the room just
yeah,
changed.
it's like we can go a little bit lower, talk a little bit slower, and we just talk about something else. And then it just it slows you down and it's like, oh, but like your brain mirrors it. Like you can
Mm.
calm like if you're talking really fast and really like people are like more ramped up,
Mm-hmm.
and so like it's good for like even conflict resolution if you just consciously will lower your voice and
Mm-hmm.
slow it down. The person kind of automatically falls in with you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm conscious of that a lot because a lot of times I felt like in the past I was very monotone in
Mm.
my voice, and so just to not be boring.
Yeah.
What about you though? Because you're in your photos and stuff a lot. Do you ever like? Are you self conscious or like? Do you ever like? Are you hard on yourself or you're like, or
No, I work really hard to not be hard on myself
uh
because I just from my past experiences and also seeing other people, I don't like it when other people are hard on themselves.
huh
So then I imagine, oh, people probably don't like it if I'm hard on myself.
hmm
So I should take that into account and not be hard on myself. And I was a communication studies major, which
uh
I kind of think of as the love child of psychology and sociology.
yeah
So it's just, I pay really close attention to the way that people communicate, and whether it's non-verbally or verbally, or like the tone of your voice and body language, so many different things. It's always something that I'm curious of, and I think that does transfer to photography, because I can look at a ream of pictures and just be like, no, 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 that's the one,
hmm
no, 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 and like
yeah
there's minute differences
yeah
in them, but like there's one that I can always see, like that's the expression that is genuine and the one that I'm trying to
hmm
get out of the photos.
Yeah, the psychology behind it. And a good podcast, The Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard. He had on a
Mm,
hostage negotiator who wrote a book and all this stuff, but he was talking about communication.
that's cool.
And he talked about, typically in sales, there was this belief, and there still is, it's probably the main belief, but he says it's not true, that if you get people to say yes a certain amount of times in a row, when you finally do the big ask or you go for the sale, they're more likely to say yes because
Mm,
you've gotten them to agree and say yes to you a certain amount of times in a row. So it builds up this comfort or rapport kind of thing.
mm-hmm,
But he says, no, it's not actually the opposite is true because if people say no, they actually feel like they have control of the situation. Where when you're leading them and getting them to constantly say yes to something, they're
mm,
kind of getting taken down this path. He kind of gave an example. He said he was this girlfriend that he had, where they were trying to figure out, they wanted to order food and he wanted to order something from the Cheesecake Factory. And she didn't want to get anything from the Cheesecake Factory. She wanted something else. And he said to her, he goes, well, you wouldn't be against me ordering something from the Cheesecake Factory, would you? And she's like, no. But he like gave her, rather than trying to sell her on it by her saying no, she kind of, because people are more comfortable saying no to something first. So if you
mm,
can arrange the question in a way where
mm.
they say no, they can kind of, and he had his whole thing on like framing. He talked about going into a hotel trying to get a room and like this the whole communication thing. So I've been
So
really
like
paying attention to it.
them saying no first then causes them to say yes later.
Yeah, it kind of makes them like, I'm trying to think of an example. I don't know if I can come up on the spot. If I was trying to get you to go do something and I'm like, hey Paloma, let's go get a drink after this, or if I'm trying to get you to say yes to
Mm-hmm.
something like that, it's like you feel like I'm asking you for something.
Oh,
But if I say you wouldn't,
okay, I
if I
get it
say to
now.
you like, would you be cool? Like you wouldn't be against us going out to grab a drink at some point, would you? And you'd be like,
Mm-hmm.
no, or something. If I
Yeah,
could,
yeah, yeah,
because then you feel comfortable. Like, oh, I just said. You feel like you're in control. Like you said no,
yeah.
but you know what I mean. But I'm still asking you, but you're saying no, but also yes at the same time, kinda.
Yes, that makes
So
more sense.
yeah.
Because then like you feel, or it makes the person feel like you're presenting
hmm
them with options,
hmm
and like you said, like they're the one
Yeah,
in
like they're in control.
control.
Rather than trying to ask you to go do something, I say, you wouldn't be against doing a photo shoot with someone you've never met before, would you? And you'd be like, no. But I'm like, hey, I want you to go do a photo shoot with this person over here. You might be like, whoa. Like
Stop
it's
telling me what to
it's a
do.
different like pressure, a
Yeah.
different energy. So like all that stuff though is really
Mm-hmm.
fascinating.
I do like that. I think that does come to play a lot
Uh-huh.
in a lot of business transactions and even just like creative endeavors.
hmm
And a lot of people don't fully harness their understanding of that. And it could be something that a lot of people can stand to benefit from.
Dude,
Just like learn how to communicate properly.
oh, it's so huge. I went to this last relationship that I was in. I went to counseling afterwards because I was like, why is it like everyone I date is kind of the same? Like I keep dating the
Mm.
same type of person. And then we went through the relationships I've had and the people I've dated. And she's like, well, there's a red flag. Here's a red flag. Here's a red flag. Like she kind of made me aware of things that were completely oblivious to me. But then we started working on conflict resolution within a relationship using the John Gottman
Mm.
method
I
of
haven't.
conflict resolution. He's a really interesting guy. People should look him up. He was a professor at UW, spent decades studying relationships.
Hmm.
Within 15 minutes, with 80% accuracy, he can predict if a couple's going to break up or stay together. He
Oh.
spent decades studying what are the characteristics of couples that stay together for their entire life. What are the characteristics of ones that only last like 10 or 15 years, and what happens on the ones that only last a couple years? What he found is that the negative to positive like ratio of like positive comments is like
Mm.
5 or 4 to 1. Like for every negative that might happen, there's 4 or 5 positive
Mm.
interactions. But basically, the style of communication that he teaches is when you need to confront someone, whether it's an employee or a friend or someone you're in a romantic relationship with, is you should always approach it with saying, I was really upset that this particular thing didn't get done and it stresses me out because I'm trying to make such and such happen and it really stressed me out. Do you think it would be cool if next time we went and did this instead of going, you always do this, you never do this? Like as soon as you start saying you do this,
Yeah.
that person goes defensive and then it turns into an argument or a fight. But you always have to preface everything by saying how you feel of like if you wake up in the
Yeah.
morning and you're walking somewhere and you trip over your partner's shoes, instead of being you're so messy, you leave your stuff everywhere. I almost fell. You should just be like, I almost fell down and like hit my head or whatever. Would it be cool if from now on maybe at night we put our shoes away over here or something like that, just so
Mm.
when I'm half awake I don't like crack my head open in the morning.
Yeah.
Just like that.
I have heard of that.
There's
Yeah.
a huge difference in how just
Mm-hmm.
but that's important for like business too, even when you communicate. Like I apply his techniques to everything.
Yeah.
Talking to my daughter, talking to my friends, talking to anybody, of like you have to be really careful not to blame or attack or
Mm-hmm.
but to just always, it's really interesting because it forces you to open up and just communicate how you're feeling. And if
Mm-hmm.
people know you're upset or that you're hurting or frustrated, they're more willing then to do the thing you're wanting them to do rather than being you
Mm-hmm.
are so messy. You never put away your dishes or like, you never remember this. You always do this. People go, ugh, they get
I
tight on you.
totally get that. And
Uh-huh.
I definitely apply that kind of principle and it helps
Uh-huh.
so much. There have been so many instances where I can just be like, this is the way that it ends up so much better. The
Mm-hmm.
end result is much better because
Yeah.
then there's not that tension
Mm-hmm.
of like when's the next fight going to break out, but it's just you're communicating your feelings. And
Yeah.
when one can understand the other, then your life
Mm-hmm.
will be a lot better.
Mm-hmm. When did you learn that? Like, how did you get to that point where you understand that? Because a lot of people don't. most
Oh,
people's
so many people don't. I'm like,
most people's
oh,
style of
it's
communicating
so
is just to be
bad.
like, you never do this. You never.
Oh man, it's
Did your
I'd say
parents model that, or like, how did you get that?
I think probably from communication, just like
Uh-huh.
communication studies and my study of that, and the more that I learned,
Mm-hmm.
of it's just like it's easier, or it made more sense when
Yeah.
I learned. I think it must have been, I forget a lot of the specifics, but I remember the applications
Mm-hmm.
of different things. So
Mm-hmm.
like that, what you were just saying, that you should express how you're feeling,
Mm-hmm.
and then that'll help diffuse a potentially explosive situation. And then I would apply that with either roommates or with family members, and stuff ended up going a lot better
Yeah.
than when I was previously.
Uh-huh.
Because like previous, I would either just kind of be really defensive if
Mm-hmm.
someone would say something to me, or like I would not say, if I was upset, I would just kind of like keep that inside of me, and it would just be like this big ball of
Oh,
angst and
yep.
anger,
It
and just
builds
keep
up.
it all built up inside,
Uh.
and it'll explode someday.
uh-huh.
But then like after, I was like, no, if you just express that, like, this is how I'm feeling, would
Mm-hmm.
it be okay if we found a better way to
I feel like
figure this
that's
out?
most people's gut reaction way of conflict resolution. Is like most people go defend, like your feelings get hurt, or like either you're upset about something happening or somebody said something to you that upset you, but both instances you kind of internalize it and hold it within. So many people are afraid of confrontation or letting it out because you don't know, because you've had probably instances or encounters where you tried to resolve it and it turned into a huge fight, or the other person got angry, or something negative happened, and so you're like, ugh, to try to open up again and do this is probably going to backfire. And
kind of in that same vein, I think listening is a huge beneficial thing that a lot of people can benefit from, or like learning how to listen.
yeah,
I feel like a lot of people they hear but they don't actively listen when two people are speaking. Usually one is waiting for their next turn to speak instead of fully taking in what the other person is saying. And I think it's been something that's helped me in those kind of conflict situations. It's like fully hear out what the other person is saying, and then you'll be better able to like meditate on that and then have a more educated response to them.
yeah, exactly. I found that too. I've done a lot of meditation. I've done a lot of meditating. That helps too. And one of the things I a tool that I use is when I'm listening to someone speak is to just focus on the pauses in between the words and the sentences. If you just are quiet and just listen, like it can really engage your attention. Another thing I pointed out, my friend Caitlin, we were hanging out a couple weeks ago, and I said, a really fun exercise I learned from listening to stuff on meditation and Buddhism and whatnot is they do this exercise where you could do with any object you want. It could be an orange, an apple, a tree, it doesn't matter. But imagine like holding an orange in your hand, and you know what it is. It's an orange. Like that's the label we gave it. But pretend for a moment that you have never seen it and you have no idea what it is. And then all of a sudden, as soon as you play that game, your attention becomes hyper focused on that object. Before, because your brain knows what it is, you just like everything in this room we've seen, so we're barely paying attention to it. But it's like when you travel to a new place in the world, like the first time I went to Hawaii or Europe, as soon as you get off the plane, you're like, wow, we're here. And you're like looking at the buildings and the people and the food and the road and the mountains and the trees, and you're like, whoa, like you're taking it all in. You're so present, and all these new neurons in your brain are lighting up because you've never seen this environment, and your brain's like, whoa. But everyone who lives there barely pays attention, kind of like we do when we live here. We've seen everything 1,000 times because we drive by it 1,000,000 times, so we're barely focused.
It's like, it's not bigger.
But you take that orange and you just pretend you don't know it, and then all of a sudden, like, oh wow, like look at all these like little dents, and like the color, and then the texture, and like you just do this exercise where you feel it, and then you open it and you peel it and you smell it, but you're pretending like you've never seen this thing before. But to do that to people, like when even if you're in a relationship with someone you've been with for years and you know all their mannerisms and their tone, but to sit there and pretend, like if I pretend like I've never seen you, like, and all of a sudden I'm like really looking at your eyes and your face, and I'm like, oh wow, this is like a new, like the first time you went on a date with somebody brand new, you're like super into them. But then after you've been with them for a while, you're like, you could still, it's like it's not as there. But if you play that game where you pretend like you've never seen that person, you're like all of a sudden you're really looking at their face, and you're like present, and you hear their voice and everything, right? It kind of just makes it new and fresh, I do that sometimes when I'm driving. I'll pretend like I'll just look at, they're called trees, but I'll pretend like I don't know what it is. And then all of a sudden, like, whoa, like it's so cool. Like,
I love
it's
that.
a fun game.
That is a really cool way. Well, especially in regards to people. I'm always so fascinated by people. So that's a really cool thing that I'm definitely going to take that and apply that.
It's fun.
It's cool. Or even if you find someone that maybe rubs you the wrong way, and then looking at them in a different light and trying to figure out like what's really the root.
It's usually an ego thing. It hits your ego in some way. Usually, like I find if someone says or does something that you feel that energy thing in you, it's because they either attacking your belief system or the way you feel like you should be treated, or you have an issue with authority and they try to like, raise their voice at you or tell you to do something. Like there's always, it comes back to you, and it's not, really them. And it's hard because I can go through phases where I'm so zen, and then there's moments where I'm just fucking cranky. I'm like, fuck you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it just varies, but anyways, so like when you were doing though photography, back to that for a minute, you started photographing your friends, and then you did a wedding for $25. And how were you happy with that work? Like when you look back on it?
I mean, looking back now, no, absolutely not. But for the time being of like a kid, early 20s, maybe late teens, and then like I had just done it. Like, it was mediocre. It was I got done what needed to be done. I
Yeah.
photographed the important events and nothing was really blurry. And when I got probably a little more early, I'm still in early 20s, but like more like 21, 22, I was like, oh, I could actually make this more of an art form.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was when I upgraded cameras and started shooting more and just getting more experience under my belt. And then I started looking for more meaningful ways that I can engage in this art form. And I started looking at local businesses and thinking like how I love the passion that people have for local businesses and their own creative passions and making that into a business. How can I help give these people a platform and like kind of show them off with my creative outlet?
Uh-huh.
And I started going to different businesses and being like, hey, can I shoot in your space? Or like, and I'll give you some of these and like I'll just use your space as compensation.
And what were you shooting? Like models or just like
Yeah,
just
so I'd take a model and then like I'd bring them into a space because like people are my passion.
And were you just using like a friends as models, or like
Yeah.
where were you finding them? Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't get random people. Like I start with my friends and then
Uh-huh.
friends of friends, and it goes from there. I've never
Okay.
like gone on like looking for
Models.
models specifically. It always has been like friend of a friend of a friend of a.
And they would just use like the clothes that were sold in that shop, model them, that type of thing.
No, they'd usually so like the first one that I went to was Baby Greens. It's a plant cafe.
Oh, I know that place.
Downtown.
I've driven by it, never been in.
Yeah, super
Yeah.
cute. Owned by
I think I follow
really
them on
nice
Instagram.
Guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
Nick, really nice guy, very easygoing. He's got a great establishment right there. So this was before it was a cafe. It was just the plant shop, and I thought it was really cute. It had only been up for like maybe just a couple of months, I think. It was really fresh. And I was like, I really love your space. Would it be okay? I'm a photographer. Is it okay if I come in and shoot here? Like I have a friend she was like plant mother, obsessed with plants, and it'd be her dream to be in this place. And he was like, yeah, sure, totally. And I was like, great, cool. So yeah, we just spent an afternoon shooting there. And then another place that I really liked was Swim Club in Fairhaven. It's like
Yeah, I've been there. I love that place. It's one of my favorite places. Well, that's how I found Sammy, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Because I had been there and I liked the place, so I followed them on Instagram. And then she popped up on their feed. Wait, not Swim Club. What's Gaines Bar?
Gaines Bar. Oh, was it probably? I probably was one of
the owner owns both. I've been to both. I like both. And so yeah, but no, Gaines Bar. I followed them on Instagram, and then I saw her pop up on their. Did you shoot those photos at Gaines Bar with her?
Yeah.
And so then I just started following her because I knew eventually I was going to be doing some stuff with the store, and I was like, oh well. I'll follow her, and then I started following photographers and models around town just randomly when they pop up.
Yeah.
And that's how I found you, obviously.
Hey.
But yeah, how did I find you exactly? I don't remember. I follow you at some point. I don't know if I was following Sammy and then found you. I don't know how that worked, but
it probably would have been that because like if you have that many people like connected, then I'm connected with all of them, so that would make sense. But I loved Swim Club, and then I got a couple that I know locally. One of the gal, she is a photographer, so her and her boyfriend. I was like, you two are really cute, and I think you'd look really cute in this setting. So I want to photograph like a date setting.
Oh, that's neat.
So then we took pictures of them, and like I gave them to Swim Club, and then I met the director of photography at the time. There was Max Chestnut, and he's a local photographer, but he's also like an international kind of photographer too. He leads photography retreats in different parts of the world, like
neat.
really, really well known.
Wow, that's cool.
And so I got in touch with him, and then that started the ball rolling of me getting to know the different people in the community and making all these connections. And then I started getting a little bit more extroverted and being like, oh, like I could really sell myself, but also like bring a lot of benefit to all these different restaurants.
Yeah.
Or not just restaurants, but different
businesses. And whatnot.
And that started my passion for helping people who have passions and bringing them into a more picturesque form.
When you do a shoot and then you're back home editing pictures, are you one of those people...
I start to wonder what I'm doing with my life.
Really? What do you mean?
I'm just like, there's like 1,000 pictures. I'm like, I have to delete 80% of these. What am I doing?
On average, how long does it take you to go through like an edit? Like when you did it for me, let's say, me and Sammy and I, when you did it at the store, how long did that take?
Maybe 2 hours. Like if I chunk it all together, but like I can't sit. Some people can sit down and culling would be like what it's called to like delete all these photos. Some people can sit down and cull through them in like maybe 2 or 4 hours, but like me, I feel like altogether it takes probably 8 because I'm just like I love so many, and I'm just always going back.
You don't have to shoot. You don't have to do a lot of them, Daniel. Just a couple of each is fine. I'm like deleting. Oh, okay. Okay. I just see. Uh, I see you over
Do an
there.
aerial one.
I see you over there working hard. I'm like,
Oh, but you
yeah,
can't.
from
You
up
got the
above.
thing.
Well, you're just doing the story, right? Yeah. Okay. That's all right. I'm over my physical appearance at this point. Like, look at my hair. I'm gonna say, whatever.
Everyone's in quarantine. No one cares.
I don't give a fuck.
We all have grown.
Oh, there we
have
go.
so
That's a
much
good one.
grace.
Get yourself in there. That's so good. Oh, nice. Very nice.
I like that.
Are you happy with your work in general? Because are you like hard on yourself? Like, are you one of those creative types who are like, fuck, it's never good enough. I just don't like it.
No, because I know that like in a couple of years I'll always be better than I am today. And so I always try to just be like, this is as good as my current experience allows me to be. Like I shouldn't be like beating, and especially because it's not something that is my main source of income.
Yeah.
It's something that I always want to be my creative outlet.
Uh-huh.
And so I feel like if it was my main profession, I might be a little bit more hard on myself.
You're in your early 20s?
Yeah, I'll be 25 next month.
You seem very together.
Oh, thank you.
Like you seem very, yeah, you have like a lot of knowledge that it seems like someone wouldn't have at that age. That I certainly
thank you.
didn't.
I
Like just like in
appreciate that.
communication and like thoughtfulness and not being hard on yourself and your work. Like I was insane for a long time.
Really?
You seem more calm. Like where does that come from?
I think a lot of it would be my spirituality and like my like personal religious beliefs, but then also the different experiences and things that I learned in school and experiences from my past, and always meditating on the like I'm very much an intuitive thinker. Like I'm always thinking like, how did I get to this point? Like just thinking like when I was younger, like I was extroverted and then introverted and then extroverted again. I just kind of flip flop from being extroverted and introverted, and just always meditating on that and understanding that who I am now is just a product of who I have been before. And I shouldn't be frustrated because there is time in front of me. Like there's always so much time to improve upon yourself. Like you don't have to be the best person at anything right now. A lot of people have that drive and or like that worry. And I feel like you can just there's so much time, and we can just like allow yourself to be an experience.
Do you meditate a lot?
No, I started doing that when I started realizing I had a social anxiety issue a couple of years ago, and I just but not like meditation, but more just kind of focusing on breathing. I started that first, and then did a little bit
Honestly, I've always the biggest thing in my life that has helped me in every situation across everything is meditation, because I've been doing it. I mean, I did it off and on for a very long time. There'd be years where I didn't do it, but like I did it. I started when I was like 16. I'm 40 now. I still do it occasionally. I'll go through phases where I do it every day, but it's just breathing technique, just focusing on the breathing and then observing the thoughts and the emotion or whatever that's happening in your brain. And it's weird because the more you practice it, it helps you in every area of your life in terms of being patient, listening, not getting defensive, because you become so aware of like emotions and thoughts and feelings arising in your body when certain things happen.
Yeah.
That you can just observe them and not react. Like you could feel anger come up in you and you'll feel the wave, but you won't react as if you are the anger. You just feel the feeling and then it goes away. And it allows you to be so calm and to manage everything, depression, anxiety. Like you can literally observe anxiety coming up in your body and you could feel it. But you're also detached in a weird way where you can still observe it and function, but you're aware of it, but it doesn't become you. It's so crazy.
I agree with that 100%.
It's so crazy, yeah. And the more I meditate, like it's weird because I've gone into some deep meditations just on my own where you almost feel like you're not your body anymore. Like you become so the breathing becomes such a part of you that honestly it feels like you become just like a centered in your body to where you feel like you're not your body anymore. And it's really fucking trippy. It's like I don't know, like it really makes you question a lot of things about you almost feel like you're not you. Yeah, which is really cool. It's a really cool place to get to.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I found that that's been more therapeutic in life than anything I've ever done.
It's very helpful. I totally agree with that. When I got the headspace. I think that was the first thing that started helping me to start focusing on that kind of like breathing and meditating and start viewing that as something that could be very helpful for me in my day-to-day life.
Yeah.
And that definitely changed my perspective on a lot of things. Or just because
Uh,
I was someone who would hold all this anxiety within me and not let it go and not easily pass through. And after I started paying attention to my breathing, because I got to a point where I started having issues breathing, like I couldn't
You'd have
breathe
like a little
well.
mini panic attack almost.
And I didn't know what they were.
Uh-huh.
I had always been such a person who was focused on being positive that I was like, no, like this isn't, it's,
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep going. It's going to be okay. Ah! But then like after like I recognized that, oh, you're anxious, like you're
Mm-hmm.
experiencing anxiety, and it didn't,
Is
it,
this something you experienced at a young age, or did it come on later in life? Like,
no, later, like I think right after college. So just a couple of years ago.
that's interesting, and just out of
Oh,
nowhere, huh?
it started, I think, probably my senior year. And because like now I have the benefit of hindsight and like I can kind of see and compartmentalize
Yeah.
where when things happen and like life makes more sense now. And so I think it kind of started around that time. And then after a period of time, like I was just spreading myself too thin and like always just having too many commitments
Yeah.
and never having enough time to be with myself
Mm-hmm.
and enjoy quiet time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I say like I fluctuate from being more extroverted to more introverted, because now I realize that
Uh-huh.
I benefit from being 75% more introverted and like having time to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then that 25% is the extroverted side of me that I enjoy being around everyone
Mm-hmm.
else. But most of the time I enjoy being in a
Mm.
quiet and peaceful
Yeah.
environment.
It's good you're so intuitive that you have that insight
Mm.
into your own mental health. I've taken breaks from the news and social media multiple times, and I go back and forth. And I feel so much better and happier and less anxiety when I'm not on Instagram, when I'm not reading the news. Because I'll be a news junkie and be on CNN and Yahoo News and just constantly reading all, the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll be on Instagram. And I've really thought about this a lot. And obviously, the news one's obvious because they're putting up the most salacious, horrible, negative occurrences of like 7.8 billion people on the planet. And so your brain freaks the fuck out because it thinks you're in an environment of death and destruction and rape and murder and fires. And so your primal lizard brain is like, fuck. And so your cortisol levels are through the roof. And every day, but then you walk outside and like the sun's out and the birds are chirping and like, but you're getting the environment of the whole planet, which we're not wired to get.
Mm-hmm.
Taking a break from that shit, I feel so much better always. And also
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, I've tried to figure out Instagram and
No one can do that. Let me know when you do.
well, here's my hypothesis that I'm working on that I think
Do
it might
tell.
be when you're on Instagram and you're scrolling either through the explore feature or just your friends, what's happening is those images that you're seeing are triggering emotions and feelings inside of you. So one picture could be a cute little puppy and so your body reacts, "Oh, so cute." And then the next one is like someone getting beat by the cops and you get anger, tense and depressed and sad. And then the next one is a picture of a little kid doing something cute and you're like, "Aw." And then the next one is like a couple and
Mm.
then you're like, "Oh, I've been single, I'm lonely." And then the next one is like more violence and then the next one's happy. And so your body is just
Yeah.
constantly like happy, sad, stressed, angry. It's like and so I think we're not wired to like go through that roller coaster of emotions in fucking quick, like real time. And then we get off and our brains are like buzzing with anxiety and like stress and fear and like, what the fuck, these cops and this and that. And we feel like the world's just horrible. And I think if you weren't even on your phone, you would have no idea about most of this stuff. I think
Yeah.
because we evolved in like small tribes and small groups, we've never evolved to see the whole world's news. And also looking at Instagram, you can intellectualize it as like, oh, but your body is reacting constantly, unconsciously, because your brain's trying to keep you alive in a weird way. And so you're internalizing all of those images
That makes a lot of
and it's
sense.
triggering all those emotions and then you're reacting to them and so your hormones and your cortisol and your brain is all over the place out of whack and people feel depressed
Mm-hmm.
and anxious from being on social media. I mean, you hear it all the time, people take social media breaks. And I think and so it's an interesting tool. It's fun, it's great for business, there's great entertainment. I follow some really cool people that I enjoy seeing their content, but I don't think we're wired for it
Mm-hmm.
naturally. And so I think managing your mental health by taking breaks is really important. I think if you're on Instagram, it could be Facebook, where it's just an echo chamber of everyone ranting.
Yeah.
like you're gonna get burnt out and stressed and anxious, and you're just gonna get. So I think you have to have that balance where you're aware of that, and then you take mental health breaks where you just
Hmm.
get off and take time. You
I'm
know.
glad that mental health is becoming something that is a lot more commonplace to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's, and I do think that the social media and the electronic screens that we
Mm-hmm.
look at is just like that is something that is definitely revving everyone and just keeping people up. Like even just like at night, it's hard for your brain to shut off. And like what's recommended by a lot of officials is to not like you get it,
Uh-huh.
just like put your phone away and don't look
Uh-huh.
at any screens for like an hour, half hour before you go to
Yeah, it's
bed.
supposed to be a couple hours before bed. You're not supposed to be in front of any screens
Hmm.
because it stimulates a gland behind your eye that reduces melatonin production
Hmm.
by like up to 50%. So, 2 to 3 hours before bed, if you're staring at a computer or a TV or your phone, it's preventing your body's natural cycle of releasing melatonin.
Hmm.
So many people have sleep trouble. I've been going through some insomnia lately. Danielle was on the last podcast, and we actually talked about how we'll be watching a movie or a TV show, and I'll be at home watching, and I'll just automatically, as a knee jerk reaction, grab my phone and start in the middle of a show where I'm watching a story unfold. I'll just
Hmm.
be like, what's on Instagram?
Yep.
No
It's
reason.
addicting.
No reason at all. And I catch myself doing it all the time.
Hmm.
I've done things where I'll leave my phone upstairs when I'm downstairs watching TV.
Hmm.
I've even done things where I put my phone in another room when I go to sleep
Yeah.
because it's releasing dopamine in your brain. It's giving you that little dopamine bump, all the colors and the pictures.
Hmm.
And so we're basically addicted to it. It's,
Do you have that reaction where you pick up your phone, but you're not really, like you said, you're not really sure
you're not
why,
looking at
and then you
anything.
automatically just like click on whatever is the app that like gives you the most. Like for me, it's like Instagram is the one that I'm on most of the time,
Uh-huh.
and so it's like without like I probably wanted to go to Spotify or to my calendar, and it's just like
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Instagram, like
Uh-huh.
that's not the app
Yeah,
I wanted, but my thumb is so used to just
going right to it.
tapping that
Yeah,
one.
it's become so
It's
unconscious.
addicting.
It is.
It's sad.
Yeah. So, yeah,
But it's
taking
still
those
a great
breaks.
platform to use for any marketing purposes or
Well, I
creative
think like
outlets.
here's the thing with like technology. A lot of people try to go anti-technology. Like that's not going to solve anything. The reality is technology is always improving and moving forward. It's going to continue with or without you. If you are selling a product or a service or you're in a business and you're not on those platforms, you're at a fucking gigantic disadvantage
Oh
because that's where all consumer attention is right now.
yeah.
People
Hmm.
aren't reading a fucking news. Who's buying a newspaper? I don't think my
Oh, I could
daughters
tell you, there are people that come into the woods and they're always buying.
are they older or younger?
Oh, they're older.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. So like I mean, God, I don't know if my daughter's ever in her life. My daughter's will be 20 in August. I don't know if
Hmm.
she's ever even purchased a newspaper in her life.
Wow.
You know, I grew up with it because that was the social media of the
Yeah.
day was the newspaper.
Yeah, you make hats with
But
it.
like, yeah, if you're gonna try to like go out into the world and like sell a product or service and you're not doing social media, like, how is
Yeah.
anyone gonna find out about you? You're gonna
Yeah.
put
You're
an
gonna
ad in the
tank
newspaper or like the radio that no one listens to, like,
the
so you,
radio.
yeah, you have to do it. You have to be on there and be engaged, right? So it's a trade-off, but I think having the awareness that you need to take breaks from it is
Hmm.
important, especially now with like the corona and then the riots and the thing going on with George Floyd and the cops. And I got off. I haven't been reading the news in days because I'm just like it's too much,
Hmm.
like so much. But
Balance,
anyways,
definitely.
so when you're editing your photos and you're going through the whole process, like it feels pretty rewarding. You're not too hard on yourself about it. Is there anything as you go along and you're doing it where you're like you see where you can make improvements, or just is it always like one of those things where you're like a perfectionist about, or
I always try to do the best I can, but
uh-huh.
I think I am someone who I will always try to improve
Mm-hmm.
upon it. And so I have to take those breaks and look away and then come back to my work and
Mm-hmm.
reassess it, but then also have that mental
Uh-huh.
understanding that I like ask myself, I often have like a version of
Mm-hmm.
myself. I'm just like, ask yourself this question. Does it look good?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Is it the best that you can do at this moment in time?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Is it like, are other people going to look at it and be like, wow, that's good?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, probably, because it does look good. And like not being afraid to like tell yourself, this looks good.
Yeah.
And then be like, oh, okay, let's just go post it. It's
Uh-huh.
great. Like, it, no one really cares that much
Yeah.
about it. So, like, I shouldn't pour every ounce of my being into it. It's something
Yeah,
that I enjoy. So, if I enjoy it, then other people will
I
enjoy
feel that
it.
way with Instagram posts too. You can get, because obviously I own a coffee shop and like we do posts and stuff. you get into this mode, you can get into this mode where you want it to be like a Hollywood style production of like lighting and
Yeah.
sound and video. No one really gives a fuck. Like,
Yeah, it's
because
just it's a blip on your screen.
if you look at your own personal scrolling habits on Instagram, it doesn't matter how dope the fucking video is. You stare at it for 2 seconds. That was cool.
Yeah,
Like you barely
literally.
care, and it's not really going to entice people to do much. Maybe they'll follow you if it's a really cool video and it has the content they like. But it's like I just post shit half the time. I don't care. Like I'm just like, psh, there it is.
Hmm.
Because
We have such short attention spans too.
we do. ADD brain, really, really bad, really bad. So when you're shooting models, what would you say is the hardest part, and I guess maybe the easiest part? Like, what's been the hardest part? Have you found?
If I'm
Or
working,
challenging, I should say. I don't know.
yeah. Well, sometimes it could be maybe just if there's a setting that maybe I'm not used to or like as comfortable with, and I'm just like maybe running dry with ideas of how to do
Mhm.
something, and I feel like I'm not contributing enough, then maybe my model will suffer. So just kind of that knowledge of like, if I don't put enough of myself into this, maybe they
Mhm.
won't feel that, and then we won't have that kind of great energy that
Yeah.
like other I do have with other people.
Mhm.
And so I think the toughest thing would just probably be me and not worried about not getting the shot that I want,
Uh-huh.
especially if it's for a business. Like
Yeah.
if I'm working for someone, it's the fear of not getting what the client wants.
Have you had some difficult interactions with clients where they weren't happy with the work, or are most people pretty chill and happy?
No,
Yeah.
mostly people are happy because they can't do it themselves.
Yeah, they
So it's just like
almost
literally
know.
anything will
Uh-huh.
be better than what I take
Yeah.
with my iPhone.
Well, especially when it's not your field of expertise, you really don't even have the eye for it or really know. You're like, oh, that looks good.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah. It's just like
I don't
it's a
know.
photo, it's clear, it's not blurry. Like I will perfect.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah. But
Uh-huh.
so it's more the artistic
Uh-huh.
perspective, and then other photographers. But the community that I've gotten to know here of photographers and videographers is they're all so generous and so willing to critique in a beneficial way.
Yeah.
So I don't have that fear as I might have had like in the past.
Hmm.
So yeah, probably that fear of not delivering what is expected.
Yeah.
But I think everyone has that to some
Yeah.
degree.
I think
So I've just
everyone
learned to
does. I
accept
think
it.
most people do. I think it's unhealthy if you don't. I think you should have some degree of being critical on yourself, because how do you
Hmm.
ever get better if you're so
Yeah,
in love and
exactly.
happy with everything about you, like
Yeah,
that's
there's no
narcissistic.
drive.
Like, yeah, that's like how are you
Hmm.
ever gonna get better at anything?
Yeah.
What do you do for fun when you're not outside of photography?
I love to paint, and that's
Uh-huh.
something that I've definitely have been getting into more there during quarantine.
Uh-huh.
So I've been painting more, and I train my cat. I have a cat,
Yeah.
and I train him to do tricks and to go out on walks.
I have two cats.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, what are they?
Well, they're two tabbies. They're two brothers. One's name is Buds. He's like a 20-pound
Buds.
teddy bear.
Oh
And
my
the other one's
God.
name is Master because he bosses the bigger one around. He's
Oh
only
my
like 10
word.
pounds. And two totally different personalities. I mean, if anyone follows me on Instagram, I'm always posting my cats and shit. But I got them trained with their they know every morning
Hmm.
they got these two little treats, and I've trained them. They have to run up on their cat tower to get them. So first thing in the morning now, they just automatically run up there and meow,
Hmm.
and then I give them their treats. They come when I call them. They know voice commands. I can like tell them to get up here or get down, or like, yeah.
Hmm.
It's funny.
I
Yeah.
love that.
How do you train your cats to go on walks? Cause how do you do that?
It was well, he's still working on it. It's his name is Simba. He's a glorified creamsicle. He's
Uh-huh.
just like huge and fluffy and
Big old
orange
orange
and
cat.
white. Yeah, orange and
Uh-huh.
white with green eyes. He's really pretty. People are like, "That's the most beautiful cat I've ever seen in my
Uh-huh.
life." So he's very very skittish because he came from like a pretty bad home.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then I started getting him to go on walks by just getting him out on my deck
Hmm.
first, just kind of letting him see this is the outside
Your deck
world.
looks
You have a
really nice, by
taste
the
for.
way.
Thank you.
Lots of
I'm
little
very
plants
proud of
going
it.
on there.
I love it. I'm
Uh-huh.
so proud of myself because
Uh-huh.
it's been barren for a year and a half, and
Uh-huh.
I finally did something with it. But so then I started taking him outside and just with not a harness but just a leash on his
Hmm.
collar and letting him go outside of my home,
Hmm.
and then like coaxing him with treats. And then just like little
Uh-huh.
by little, once he got okay with that, then I
Uh-huh.
would take the leash off
Mm.
to let him know that like he can have free reign if he wants to. But then once we start getting a little bit farther from my home, then I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, now we'll put the harness on. And
Uh-huh.
then but now that's his new like threshold.
Yeah.
So then he's like, okay, this is cool, and then we can start exploring from there.
I always thought it'd be cool if I got another cat as a kitten, put a harness on him to start walking around Boulevard Park right from the jump.
Yeah.
Get him used to people and dogs
Yeah.
and everything. One of my cats will follow me to the mailbox on his own, but he does it kind of skittish. You know, they like to hide. Like, so they'll go under the car and then through a yard. Like, cats don't like to be out in the open. They're like, I don't know if it's a predatory thing because they kill everything or what it is, but they're not like dogs where they could just be out. They like to hide and like, so when he follows me, he's like zigzagging under cars and through people's yards and hiding around bushes and stuff and like follows me. And then when I walk back, he does this thing where he digs in the ground, looks at me all crazy eyed and like runs towards the house. It's so fun. I've looked into those cats. Are they called servals? What are those?
Servals.
Those are the long, like $2,000 cheetah-looking cats, right?
Yeah, they've got big ears.
Yeah,
and they're, like,
is that what they
sand
are?
Cats.
Yes. Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah, I just looked it up yesterday.
I've read up on those a couple times.
I had a dream about it the other night.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You're a cat person, huh?
I had a dream, and then I had a dream that I got a serval, and it was little, and I named it Cookie because it looked like a chocolate chip cookie.
You dreamt about that. That's cute.
So now I have to go on.
I love cats. You always been a cat person?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. My mother was not.
Yeah.
And then a cat showed up at the our home that was being built, and then we eventually kept it, and then she grew to love it, and it was like sleeping in the house after 10 years.
They're so cute. I love cats so much. They can be annoying at times, especially the worst is in the summer.
They're mental. Like they mess with you psychologically.
Well, in the summer, they like to, one of them likes to wake me up early because the sun comes up early. So he's like digging into me or meowing because he wants me to open the door so we can go outside. I was like, God, it's so annoying. But yeah, I mean, they're so much fun. A couple days ago, this is crazy. I'm in my office upstairs working. Master, my smaller cat, he comes in, kind of his tail down a little bit. Sometimes they'll fight occasionally. Sometimes Buds beats him up. Sometimes it's the other way around. So I figured, him and Buds had a little thing. Sometimes cats just get weird with each other for you know why. So I'm like, oh, okay, they're having their little tiff. And I hear Buds downstairs. I have an automatic pet feeder, and he's always trying to dig into it to get nuggets of food out. So I'm like, oh, he's fucking with the pet feeder. So I'm just working, and I go in my room. I go to the bathroom. I come back out, and both my cats are in the hallway, and I can tell a little weird. Their energy's off, and I hear something messing with the cat feeder downstairs. I'm like, something's in my house.
Oh,
like
no.
there's something came in, and that's what they're weird about. And so I go down the stairs. As I'm walking down the stairs, I'm like looking over the railing, and I hear something like scatter, and it runs out, and there's a big old fat raccoon came in my house, and he ran out the back door, but then he turned around and was like, his face was right there looking. And I'm walking downstairs towards him, and he motions as if to come back in. I'm like, no. And I walked towards him, and he ran off. But a giant fat raccoon came into my house, and there was no food in the dish. I don't know if he smelled it. I have no idea. But he was in there trying to get in there.
God, they're funny.
Dude, cats are smart because, so my pet feeder that I have, this is a funny story. I don't know if I've told it on the podcast. Did I tell this one? I can't remember. Anyways, I have this pet feeder.
I'm too tired, but I don't know.
She's been working all day, poor thing. I forced her to stay here. I have this pet feeder, right? And it's an expensive pet feeder. It's like a $180 feeder. It's got like a little app. You can program the times and everything. So it would dispense food at midnight and noon every single day. They're serving for both of them. And it started to dispense food at weird, awkward times all throughout the day. Like 8 times a day it was dispensing food. I'm like, this thing's fucking malfunctioning. I tried to reprogram it, reset it. I called the company. I'm like, it's not, so we tried troubleshooting. Like, okay, like we don't know what's wrong with it. Throw it away or do whatever. They didn't say throw it away, but they're like, we'll send you a brand new one. I'm like, all right, cool. Brand new one shows up. I take the old one, throw it in the garbage. This one's set, programmed, going. Right away, it starts happening again. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And one day I'm in the kitchen, and I'm like cooking something, and I see my big cat Buds. On top of the feeder is a button you can push that will dispense a serving of food. And he figured out how to push it. He would push it and get food. And I'm like, oh my God. First of all, I threw away a perfectly good $180 feeder I could have given to one of my friends. And so I was like, oh, I got to stop him from hitting this button. So I put a board game on top of the thing so he couldn't get to the button. And then he figured out to move the board game off and push the button. Then I put the board game on there, pushed a cat tower against it, a bin of food against it. So it was like up against the wall. He still figured out how to pull it forward, hit the button. So now I have I had a mini cat tower now sitting on top of it, sandwiched in. It's too heavy. He can't move it.
Oh
But he
my
tries.
word.
But he knows. Yeah.
That
Crazy.
is so clever.
Yeah.
Cats are so crafty.
Oh my God. If anyone looks at my Instagram, every summer it's like fucking murder. Snakes, rabbits, birds, like animals I don't even know what the fuck they are. Like, I mean,
Harrison.
yeah.
Oh
Cat.
my
Does your cat go outside? Is it outdoor cat?
No,
No.
he has to stay inside just because, yeah, the area that I live in, he needs to stay
Because
inside.
traffic and stuff, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sketchy sometimes. I worry about that. But once you let a cat outside, that's it. It's over.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you never let, they just want to go back outside. It's like their heaven. There's like crackheads for it.
Yeah.
At least my cats. They're like, because I let them out one time and then I wouldn't let them out. And they would just sit at the door meowing for hours, scratching it. Just wanted to go back out. So, yeah, they're outdoor cats now.
Man.
Do you have any shows or anything you're watching? What do you like to watch?
I mean, I've watched all the classics that everyone usually watches. So
Mm.
Office, Parks and Rec, Arrested Development.
Space Force. We talked about this. It's out on Netflix now.
My friend started getting me to watch that.
Good.
I
No spoilers, but good.
I am reserving judgment.
It got bad reviews. I've heard from critics, but I never go fully with critics. I like to hear like real people think.
Mm-hmm.
I'm holding off. My daughter's coming up Sunday. It's one of the shows we're going to start watching. But I'm kind of disappointed because the vibe I'm feeling is that it's not the great. But
Well, I say that I reserve judgment because my judgment of The Office and like all the ones that I just listed off, when I first watched them, I did not like them.
that's what we just said.
Okay, so
Last
yeah,
pot,
I
we were
watched it. I didn't like it, and I'm like, this is stupid. The first time someone showed me Arrested Development, and I'm like, I don't understand any of this. I'm like, it's no, like Parks and Rec is so dumb. And then like with each of them, 2 years after I watched it again, loved it.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
And so I'm just like, anytime someone shows me a new show, and if I don't like it, I'm just like, just wait. Give me some more time. I'll come back. I'll pay more attention. I'll be a new person. And
it's weird. All of a sudden, you get the humor for some reason.
Yeah.
Like when I was in college, my friends would always talk about The Office, and I had never seen it. I'm like, I gotta check this show out because every week they're fucking talking. Did you see the new episode? So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna check it. And I watched like the first 3 or 4 episodes. I'm like, this is the weirdest, weirdest shit I've ever seen. Like this is just not fun. Like I don't get it.
It's painful.
And then I let it go, and then I came back to it eventually, and I'm like, then I fell in love. I'm like, this is funny ass shit, and like I watched it.
Yeah.
It's weird, right?
It's that. Well, I think also like as time goes on, I feel like the collective sense of humor has gotten a lot more cynical and sarcastic, and so something like The Office definitely caters to that.
Yeah.
Not everyone's a fan of The Office, but I think a vast majority.
What other shows you got right now you're looking at?
I've been watching The Crown.
I heard that's really good.
It is, and apparently very factual, too,
really?
like very true to like the royal family has watched it and approves.
Damn.
So like
I've heard about this show quite a bit.
Yeah. So I do enjoy that one. If you like more somber historical stuff. What was another one that I started watching? Or actually, I want to start watching. It's also I haven't watched this yet, but I want to. It's called Narcos, El Patrón del Mal.
So good.
But it's the El Patrón del Mal. I think there's a couple different. Like there's an English one, and this one is like all in Spanish.
You speak Spanish?
I do.
Oh,
Sí.
nice.
Because my mother is Colombian, and so growing up, like I would kind of like hear stories in passing about stuff that was going on, but never fully paid attention. And now that I'm older, I'm like, now I can have a lot more appreciation for the history in that side of the family and like what everyone like. I didn't realize that like during like when my mom was like in her 20s, like the city was getting bombed.
Where did she grow up in?
Bogota.
Oh, dang.
Bogota.
I watched the Narcos. Oh, I watched all of them. The ones with Pablo Escobar. That was like the first ones that they did. There's like 2 or 3 seasons of that. Then they just did Narcos Mexico, and it's very factual. They actually have like news footage in the show. It's very factual. They're showing, they're telling the story with the actors, all real people, like the real people that were in it, not the actual people, but the actors it's real names and everything. And then they show like news footage of when he blew up the airliner and like when he was killed, like how he died. They showed it in the movie, but then actually showed the actual news clipping, and it's real, like, and it's so fascinating just to watch how corrupt like everything was, how everyone was in, how he goes to prison at one point, and it's just like a luxury club. Like they had a prison built for
He
him. He built his own prison and was living in it, and it was just like a fucking resort. It was
Yeah.
like everything, girls and fucking entertainment. It was like, it was not even a
It
thing.
wasn't a prison.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
Can you even imagine? And oh my god, and just
It's crazy.
mind-boggling. And then they were doing business with the cartels in Mexico, which they showed in the first few seasons of the Pablo Escobar story down there, and then they came out with the Mexico Narcos, and you see how like some of the characters from the seasons that were, it all ties in, and it just shows you the whole supply chain, and it's so crazy. But it's like so much money, and when you have that much money in a third world country where people are poor, of course people are gonna do it. Of course it
The
turns out
beautiful
that way.
thing
you know?
that came from that I've been able to experience, I've gone down there and traveled there. Like I've had the
Have you been to Medellin?
I was just gonna say I've been to Medellin and
Oh wait, say it.
Medellin.
Medellin. See,
Medellin,
uh-huh.
like with the
Uh-huh.
double L is a Y sound. But so I went there, like our family went on a trip there. We probably go about every 3 or 4 years just to Colombia in general. We always go to Bogota, which is where my family is.
I
And
love
then
how you
to
say it.
Bogota.
I love your accent.
Thank you.
That's
I try
so
so
cool.
hard to not sound like a gringa. I'm told that I have a good accent for the most part, but I am usually self-conscious of how I sound when in Spanish, because I'm like, I want to have a clear accent, or I don't want to have a gringa accent, but I want to have a good Colombian accent. But we went to Medellin and to La Comuna 13, which is where Pablo grew up, and like the main section of the city that was like really torn up because of all of his actions and dealings. And so we went to that area, and it's beautiful. It is so far from anything that it was back during those times. Like the city has done, they have had such a focused effort on like trying to rebuild all of their culture and like their city because of how bad it got. And like there are escalators that go up and down all of the different levels because it's built on a hill. And so like there are escalators that go up and down. There is what's it called, like street art, just like so many different street artists, so it's colorful, everything's a different color. They have different, what are they called, it's like a ski, like lifts, but they're like capsules is a word for them. What are they
I know
called?
what you're talking about, like those things that are on a wire.
Yes.
Those giant, like, I don't know what you call it.
No, I can't think of what
Sky
they're called.
Train type things.
Gondola, yeah, there's another word for it. It's like more oh, it'll come to me at 3 a.m. I'll text you.
Yeah,
I figured it out. But like they have those as a means to try and integrate more people from the rural areas into the city. And like the city itself is one of the most clean cities, and it's like all of the transportation is so efficient and like better.
I've heard
than,
that
like,
they've really
New York.
redone it, and it's all
Yeah.
beautiful and nice and
so good.
That's cool. What's
And
the
like
food
Colombia
like?
too.
But the food's a bomb. Huh?
The food is so
I'm such
good.
a foodie now.
Oh, it's so good. I just made some like Colombian comfort food. They're called arepas.
Oh, I've had those.
Oh,
not Colombian made. I've had them like in delis and stores and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
Good.
I mean, like you can very easily make them yourself because it's cornmeal. Like the easy, simple one is cornmeal and like a little bit of salt and water.
Are you a cook? Do you like to cook?
I am.
Yeah.
Yes. Baker mostly, but I do love to cook.
That's awesome.
I do that. So like, the food is amazing. The fruit, the amount of fruit that you didn't know about, like it's just like they have specific supermarkets that are dedicated just for fruit.
Oh wow.
Like an entire like Hagen's or bigger that is just fruit.
That's insane.
It's massive, and it's so cool. And then like if you go to a restaurant and like you ask for the like a drink menu, they'll give you a juice menu. Like before, I mean they'll have like a drinks, but like their juice menu is like 1 to 2 pages long.
Holy shit.
Because that's how abundant all the fruit is there.
Oh my god.
So like that
must be like the best fruit in the world too, huh?
Oh, and the juice, and they're fresh. It's not like from a can or from concentrate. Like they make it back there. You got a guy like strawberry juice, like bananas, papayas, anything, dragon fruit, so much.
The only experience I have with something like that was when I went to Thailand. I had fresh like pomegranate juice on the street. And I don't even give a fuck about pomegranates. Like I don't eat them.
What?
I don't know if I've ever had pomegranate juice in my life. Like I don't even care about that fruit. I went there. Oh my god, it was like the best thing I ever had in my life. And coconut, you get a coconut fresh. They cut it, you just drink right out of it.
Coconut.
I'm like, what is this world?
It's
so good.
Stuff.
Like we don't have cool shit like that. Like I always get so bummed out when I come back to the U.S. because when I was in Europe last summer, and when we were in like Paris, and everything is so out in the open. Like it's so casual. The drinking age there is like 18. No one
Mm-hmm.
IDs you anybody. But like every bar and eatery, it's all outdoor seating and
Mm-hmm.
eating till like it'll be like Wednesday at like 10:30 at night and people are just socializing and drinking and eating. And you
Mm-hmm.
see what looks like kids because here you can't drink till you're 21, but it's 18 there. So you see like young kids just drinking beer and wine,
Yeah.
but it's not here where they're all like degenerate tripping over themselves. You know what I mean? Because it's like part of the it's fine.
It's their culture.
Yeah, and there's such a sense of like community. Like when we were going down, I think it's called the Seine River. I forget the pronunciation.
Mm.
And but all along for miles at like 9, 10 o'clock at night on like a weekday, people are there with their blankets, drinking wine. I'm just thinking, fuck.
We need more culture.
It's same thing with like Rome. Like here, we're all uptight about drinking and shit. Everyone's
Mm-hmm.
got to be ID'd, and there's no like even you go downtown Bellingham, it's just like there's no like there everything is outdoor
Mm-hmm.
seating and it's out in the sun and people are just socializing late at night. Like here everything is there's none of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mean obviously on the weekends we have some places with outdoor seating, but it's a different vibe. If you've been, you know what I'm
Yeah.
talking
No,
about.
I totally have.
And like here it just feels like we don't have much of everything's so like I don't know, clean and conservative feeling. Like
Mm-hmm.
people just aren't just like chill. Like there everything's like more relaxed, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh, yeah.
It's
Well, the
like
culture, like, I think a lot of like American culture is just very up, just kind of
uh-huh.
like not as willing to be as communal and like
Yeah.
sharing with everyone. Like, even just greetings, like greetings among, or like shaking hands.
Hmm.
Like any time that I would go down and visit relatives in Colombia, or like if I'd meet new people when I went to Europe, then it's just like hugs everywhere, like hugs and like
Hmm.
family and family friends, like hugs and kisses. And that's
Hmm.
not uncommon. It's not like, why are you touching me?
Yeah.
Stop. I mean, like now you do that, but like, why
Yeah,
are
right.
you touching me? Don't do that. And everyone's just, it's very loving.
But there was a study I remember in college. I don't remember the exact numbers, but they did a study where they looked at like hugging and kissing and affection
Mm-hmm.
in public in different cultures, like the U.S. and then they look at Europe, and I don't remember the other areas that were on the study or whatever. But the U.S. has like the lowest amount, or one of the lowest amounts of just human affection
Yeah.
when you're out seeing like everyone is so afraid of like I don't know like sexual harassment or why is this person touching me or
Mm-hmm.
why do you want to do more than just shake my hand. It's always weird
Yeah.
like even when we hug it's just it's
Judgmental.
always like this we have this weird thing about like weird creepy sexual vibes. I don't know what it is, but in other cultures it's like hugs and kisses and closeness. And they did a
Mm-hmm.
study where they showed like in Europe off the charts in terms of affection.
Mm-hmm.
Like just with people, and it's such a human thing, and it's even probably worse with Corona now, where there is no socializing in a bar or like touching. Like we're out in public, but we don't want to touch each other now, and there's all these weird like that's not good for mental health
Mm-hmm.
either. Like human beings are like, especially if you're like a single person, you know, or
Mm-hmm.
like just in general, like it's not healthy to not touch other humans, to have that skin on contact. Like you have
Mm-hmm.
to, and it's like, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know how we got that way. It's weird because we obviously came over from Europe, but we lost that somewhere along the way where we just
Yeah.
don't touch me. It's always like formal, like
Yeah.
weird.
I'm sure if we dug through the history, there'd be something in
Yeah,
there. If you listen, yeah,
yeah.
there's a lot there. I love seeing that kind of difference in culture though.
Hmm.
Anytime I've visited different cultures.
Yeah.
Like
Where else have you been?
Colombia, I've been to uh, Peru and Argentina.
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that was a
Hmm.
couple years ago. And like bunch of different places in Colombia. I was
Hmm.
born in Hawaii and Italy, France, Spain, England for just like 12 hours. So
Uh-huh.
I don't think that
Uh-huh.
really counts, but I was there.
Thrown in there. I was
And
on a layover in South Korea for 12 hours, so I've been there.
yeah, it's like checked off. And there's a little tiny, I always forget the name. Where is it that they do the Grand Prix race?
Oh, I don't
And
know.
it's like really close to France. Starts with an M. And I'm gonna remember that at 3 in the
3 a.m.
morning too.
Uh-huh.
It's yeah, we're the Grand Prix. It's like a super ritzy place,
You
like
know it, Danielle?
so much.
Google it, Danielle. You got my phone.
It's yeah.
It's
Let me find it.
020180. It's my phone password,
Hey,
everyone.
there you
So
go.
if you get my phone, there you go.
And but it's I remember like we just took a train there because we were in France. Our family, my family loves to travel, and they both have a history
Uh-huh.
in
I love
doing
traveling.
like travel stuff. Like my mom was a travel agent, and
Uh-huh.
my dad worked for a hotel that he handled international business, and he used to be a tour guide too.
Damn.
Has like
That's
a huge,
cool.
and he was also a strawberry farmer. Like, he just got like a really long
Oh,
list
shit.
of like a whole bunch of stuff.
Uh-huh.
But they both love to travel, and they actually, that's another, go follow them on Instagram. Where on earth are my parents?
That's their Instagram?
Yeah. Where in the world? Where in the world? Where on earth? I think it's Where on Earth. But I'll make sure I get that right, because they just got done with a world tour. It was 7-8 months, I think.
Oh, that's so cool.
And they just, Where on Earth are my parents? That's what it is. Go follow them.
I'm gonna check that out because I love to travel. It's like I usually take a trip once or twice a year. I was supposed to go to China in April for a Canton Fair. It was gonna be a business pleasure trip. I was going with a friend of mine, and then my daughter and I were supposed to go to Japan in July. Obviously, we're not going anywhere now.
Why is that?
Well, the Canton Fair. I don't know if you've heard. There's this virus. Have you heard about it?
Oh, what?
Yeah, you haven't heard.
A virus?
People are dying everywhere, left and right.
Oh my!
Yeah,
I'll look that up.
yeah. It's not. Yeah, it's not a big deal.
Okay.
But yeah, so I miss it because I love to travel.
Mm.
It's so much fun. It's like a drug almost.
Yeah.
And you know what it is? And I had this conversation with my friend Caitlin when we were hanging out a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about how, when you get older, like when you're younger, you have a lot of firsts, right? Your first job, your first car, your first kiss, your first relationship, your first bank account, your first time in high school, your first apartment, your first job. Like, you have all these new firsts. And anytime you have a new first, it's like we were talking about earlier, when you travel to a new area, you're so present at that first time. Like, remember the first time you drove a car, you're like, okay.
Oh, yeah. First time getting on a
Hyper
freeway.
fucking alert. Yeah. Now we barely are conscious. We're like daydreaming about everything else.
Like, oh, I'm going 90 miles an hour.
Yeah. And so a lot of people, as they get older, they feel like they're missing something. They feel like maybe things were more exciting when I was younger. That's what I think the midlife crisis is. People start to think my life is dull and boring. Maybe it's my relationship. I should get divorced and go be the 40 or 50-year-old in the bar hitting on all the young people partying. Like, they go through these weird phases. And I think what that is like, if you're just missing new experiences.
Yeah.
And travel is one of the things you can do as an adult that feels like you're alive again. Because when you travel to a new area, you're so enamored with a totally different thing, and you're hyper alert. Also, you're in a new culture, so you're trying to behave yourself and not offend or do anything out of character, and you don't know the dangerous areas or the weird places you're not supposed to go after 10 p.m. or something, you know? And so it's so exciting. I think that's why travel is so much fun. Like, we went to, I was in Rome and Paris and Berlin this last summer. It was fucking great, man. But it's weird because you're away from home. Like, you don't have any responsibilities. You're just eating and drinking and traveling and doing the fun shit. I fucking love it. And I fantasize about going on long adventures like your mom and dad did because...
Oh, man. They documented so much of it. They started in September of last year. They basically, they retired, sold their home, sold pretty much everything, and then just left.
That's dope.
They started in Europe. They did a whole bunch of countries in Europe, and then they went to South America, did a tour there, New Zealand, Australia, Southeast Asia, and then they ended in Hawaii.
That's living, man.
And they just came back, and now they're around here.
That's living. This job I can do remotely, most of it, and so I've thought about just traveling around. But where's some places you want to go next? I realize this is the longest podcast in the world. If you're fucking bored, if you're bored, just turn it off. You don't gotta fucking listen. We'll wrap it up soon. Danielle's probably dying. Get the fuck out of here.
She's like, I need food.
She's hanging in there. We'll wrap it up in a minute.
No.
So
places I'd like to go.
I didn't think I could talk to you this long. I guess I can. I was like, it's Paloma.
I just engage with people.
I think we're similar personalities.
Yeah.
I think we could just chat for fucking ever.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
I would agree.
Yeah. You have that mindset where you can just talk about anything.
Because I love to just experience different personas and different topics, and I don't care for small talk, but I can do it really well. Yeah. And so when I can get behind that and we can like push the small talk aside.
Yeah,
and,
I
like,
don't do well with the bar talk either, the party talk, the small that's why I never understood going to a bar to talk to random people where you're probably never going to see again. And what are we going to talk about? Like, I'm not going to share my life with fucking some party.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know. That's exhausting. Yeah.
No, I
agree.
Anyways. But yeah, like talking about
real shit.
Meaningful
shit. All right, real quick. Where's some places you want to go? And then we'll end this and let Danielle go.
New Zealand. I'd love to go to New Zealand. I would love to go to Ireland because I love the accent. I love Irish accent. So that'd be fun. Bali, from what I saw from my parents' feed, was just beautiful.
Yeah.
And
It's a nice watch, by the way. I like the color on it.
thank you. I've had it for
I keep staring at it. It's distracting.
It has the world on it.
I know, I noticed.
It has Africa, Antarctica, and Asia.
Wow.
And Australia.
Where'd you get that?
Earthbound.
Oh,
Like maybe 4 years ago. It's kind of
Cool.
tattered, but it's rustic.
nice. So if people want to get a hold of you for some photography work,
Yes.
so what kind of work do you give us a rundown of what you encompass? I know you've done some shoots for me at the coffee shop with Sammy. Shout out to Sammy. But what other do you do weddings still?
I do. I
Uh-huh.
do shoot weddings. I think my niche is lifestyle.
Okay.
So capturing a person in their own environment,
Mhm.
not really knowing that the camera's on them. I love that.
Uh-huh.
But my range goes anywhere from lifestyle, weddings, portraits, families, products, even. I've shot product photography, but anything that involves people
Mhm.
is my happy place.
Cool. And where can people find you? Instagram handle is
Paloma's Photography.
uh-huh.
And then Facebook, I'm not as active on Facebook, but you can also reach me on Facebook. Same thing, Paloma's Photography.
Mhm.
And I love
Do
to
you have a
post
website?
fun stuff. I do, palomasphotography.com.
Okay. And we'll post all this in the video, in the description underneath the video. So we'll blast it out everywhere.
Wonderful.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for coming on. We'll have to do it
Thank
again
you.
sometime.
I really
Hopefully-
appreciate
Yeah.
having
Do you want
me.
to sing us out?
Okay.
Perfect.
I'll come up with a jingle for next time.
All right. Thank you.